CIDR police. My name is Barry Green. As those of you have seen over the years, and I'm going to flip over a monitor here, since I got the web up on mine. All right, we have the CIDR report that started with Tony Bates years ago, before he went through and started making equipment when he first came over into Cisco and left Internet NCI. And when we're back in the days when we were really working hard on getting control of the growth of the Internet route table, one of the premises that went out there is that, well, people are just not doing what they should do to configure their equipment to do good aggregation. So what can people do to have peer pressure, to get people to do the right thing? So one of the things we did as a community is we kind of supported with Tony with this report that we get once a week. Who's doing good aggregation? Who's doing bad aggregation? And it was kept up by Tony, and then Philip Smith took it over, and Jeff Houston. So Jeff Houston and Philip Smith kind of maintained this weekly report and analysis, so we could see really what's going on with the table. Well, while this was going on, and this was going on for a couple of years, Hank and I started looking at this report and looking at the chart and kind of analyzing, really, are people listening to the report? Okay, so we started with this premise where we have the weekly report to do the peer pressure. Maybe people need a little bit more peer pressure. Oh, yeah. So maybe people need a little bit more peer pressure, all right? Maybe people need maybe an email to let them know, hey, what's up? Maybe people have no clue, all right? Maybe people have no idea what a prefix is. Maybe somebody is a mom and pop shop or a small ISP in a developing country and they can't even spell BGP. I mean, make no assumptions. Send a friendly email message over to people and see what the response is. Maybe there can be some differences made with the growth of the table because of some volunteer efforts to kind of analyze the weekly table and send out an email to say, hey, what's up with this, okay? In other words, can really pure peer pressure, people actually speaking up and saying, hey, put a dent in the growth of the table. All right, so the technique that Hank and I did, and this is kind of volunteer time available that Hank and I have in our, with our regular jobs, is to go through the weekly top 20 and kind of analyze and understand how ISPs kind of work with some of the big providers is their natural growth in the big providers, and kind of pick a few of them and send an email message out to the top 20. And when we send it out, we actually offer assistance. We say, what's going on here? Did you know about this? Do you need some help? Right? And we got people out there that can help with, and we have had people help with Cisco configs and Juniper configs, depending on what equipment they have to send the stuff out there. So this is kind of like the premise we went through, and it came up for this NANOG that maybe, that Hank and I should get up here and give the results, because people will wonder and question, is there anything else we can do to communicate clue out to the community? So I'm going to, Hank will run through kind of like our statistics over the last couple of years of us sending email messages out and what effect we've seen and observations.
All right, I'm going to go quickly through this so this way we don't miss up on the break. Basically, we had a reduction in 2001. We started recording what we were doing back in February 2001. You can see the numbers. We'll continue quickly through. And we actually named names as to the ones who basically went up in their aggregation rather than down. We sent out 72 emails, 72 different ASNs in 2001. 62 went down, 10 went up. But the ones that went up, they didn't really go up that much. Bell Canada, for example, the maximum one, went up only 85 prefixes. So it really wasn't that much of a growth. But these were the 10 that nonetheless went up. If we're going to name bad names, we might as well name some good names. These were the 4 that basically withdrew the maximum amount of prefixes during 2001. In 2002, we didn't work that hard. We sent out only 14 emails, and we were able to result in 4,300 prefixes being withdrawn from the table. And we had basically 3 that went up nonetheless out of the 12. 9 went down. The worst one was COVID. And basically, we've sent out so far 3 emails to them. Over the past 14 months, we have not received a single reply from them. If anyone here happens to have a contact information in AS 18566, please send it to us offline, because we have not gotten any response in the WHOIS information in ARIN, in RADB, any place else, basically doesn't work. The ones that really helped out, we have 3 people here, 3 ASNs that really did major withdrawals during 2002. And yesterday we heard about what someone was doing in their summer vacation. I believe that was Allegiance and with their merge with Digix. And basically this number, the 1282, is the top withdrawal for the past 2 years. So thank you very much for your efforts there. In 2003, we started early in December 22nd, basically right before Christmas, and we sent out 23 emails. So far, in the past 7 weeks, 8 weeks, we've only received 7 replies. Only one so far out of these 23 different ASNs have actually reduced their prefix announcements, and that was the HQ 5th signal command, and they've withdrawn 302 prefixes. That's, and over looking at a graph, we basically see over the past 2 years a reduction of about 7% that our emails, hopefully maybe, have caused this reduction in the CIDR tables. Looking at it, one of the graphs that we've seen in many different places, we see that basically starting in 2001 that the graph starts leveling out, and we don't really know. It could be, first of all, the .com collapse, but it could also be some of the efforts that we've been making in trying to reduce the CIDR tables. Okay, that was the first half. Second half of is also the leakings of leaking, basically things that leak out of your ASN that shouldn't. And we basically split the ISPs into 2 different groups. One is the Chandler Janus, where you send them something and they're leaking something and they say, "Oh my God," and they basically run out and they quickly correct whatever problems they have, whereas the other groups are the Phoebe ones, where they basically don't have a clue and they're like a deer stuck in headlights and they really don't know what's going on. And we found basically those 2 different models of ISPs. So we basically call them the Friends ISPs. And during 2002, we found that basically we had 12 incidents where someone was leaking IP addresses of 1918. But since September, that has basically stopped totally. It seems that everyone has put in their filters now, and no one is anymore leaking RFC 1918 addresses. On the other hand, RFC 1930 addresses, the ASN, the 1024 ASNs that are private, keep coming along, and it doesn't matter how clueful the ISP is or how big they are, it keeps happening. And then we also have the unallocated IP addresses. So we'll go quickly through 5 cases in 2002 where we had AS 5050 leaking a private, what we thought was a private ASN, but basically they found out, turns out that AS 5050, if I remember correctly, is the Pittsburgh Supercomputer Center, and they're very clueful, and they basically made a mistake of 1 digit where they should have been using ASN 6415.512, and basically then the removed private AS would have worked, but they made a mistake, and therefore as soon as they realized that, they took the Chandler model and said, "Oh my God, I'll quickly fix that." AS 1221, which is Telstra, basically uncovered a number of Cisco iOS bugs that basically was causing their private ASNs to leak out, even though they had the remove private AS command listed in their iOS config. And you can look at those Cisco iOS bugs offline on your own. 2 more cases is UUNet leaking out AS 5757, which is basically, I think it was allocated to UMD. It was allocated back in 1995. I've been in touch with Aaron. I've spoken to Richard on the phone for about an hour on 2 of these cases. And the person who received the allocation says he has it sitting on an 8mm tape. He can't extract it, so he can't show the proof. Aaron says basically without the proof we can't put it into the tables. AS UUNet continues to announce it. That's the situation we have today. The other one is AS 1880, which is leaking out AS 1877. This is Peter Lothberg's private ASN. RIPE says the paperwork was lost sometime in 1994. RIPE says they're willing to re-register it as a lost ASN. So Peter, if you're here in the crowd, just contact RIPE and they'll hopefully re-register it for you. In regards to IP addresses, we have a case with Sonera, which received IP address space back in 1992 and claims that they received the entire space from 192.83.0 to 192.83.100. But the ARIN database shows it differently, and they have various sections of that IP address space, /22/19s within that area. Sonera says that the Internet back in those days lost the paperwork. ARIN says they've gone through all the paperwork. They can't find it. They've gone through actual crates of paperwork. So basically, hopefully at some point, this will also get resolved. And then we have a case of the U.S. military, where basically AS568 has been announcing a number of prefixes, and we noticed that even though they're announcing it as, say, 132.0.0/10, in ARIN, it is registered 132.1 and 132.2 and so on, but the 132.0 and the 137.0 and all these others that are listed here are not listed in any registry, not in ARIN, not in RADB, not in the whoisnic.mil. So if someone here has contact with the U.S. military of AS568, please contact us offline, so this way we can help you register it and make the database a little more correct for all us who use filtering. And now back to Barry.
So what now on this? Hank and I plan on continuing to send email messages out because this has an effect for trying to keep the, trying to make an attempt to keep the table growth down. Those will have side benefits and attempts for those of us in the community who work on communicating clue to new generations of engineers. It kind of gives us a sanity check of what materials are working, what materials are not. It's always good to know if you talk to somebody and they really don't understand certain aggregation concepts of how to configure something on BGP, to know that the documentation that we have out there is not really working. It's not really communicating where they can actually operate. So it gives some good feedback to us on that. And since this is a volunteer effort and time available, if any of you want to spend some time on this, contact us and join the fun. As you said, most of the time we get people who say like, oh, let me go fix it. Others are going like, I have no idea what you're talking about, what's BGP. Sometimes you get silence and you get frustrated with that. And I don't think we've really had a case where people have took our email messages and put them in the trash heap. So we haven't run into that yet. Okay. Questions? How do we contact? Oh, our emails. First slide. Do I page up? Page down. Yeah, it's on the slides. So just email us on the slides.